Note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly K. This is Grizzly True Crime and we are here now to watch opening statements. So then, let's play this for you.
Your Honor.
Are you ready?
I will remember very well. Mr. William, you may present your opening.
I hope you like the view. I've tried to make it as interesting as possible for you. If we need to boost the sound, I'll do that. Here we go. Oh, they changed the view. Let me just catch up here quickly.
Your Honor, may I inquire, is there a hand mic so that I may address the jury? I think we do have one. Might take us a moment to get it.
Don't change the view, people. Stand by. I want to make sure that it looks very nice for you, okay? But of course, if they flip the cameras, that doesn't help us at all. If you don't know anything about this case, I hope that you will check out the playlist in the description box, all the trial prep that we have been doing, and all of that. Okay, view of the judge. They say view of the judge. Let's put the judge here. Okay, and then we shall, just give me a second. I want to make sure that you could see everything very nicely. Because at the moment, shame. Okay, let's see how it goes like this.
And then I do have a PowerPoint attached. All right.
Presentation time for them. Where's their presentation? There, oh my goodness.
May I proceed your phone?
Welcome,
Yes,
everyone.
HDMI.
Yeah, they're messing with me, steel guitar.
May I proceed, Your Honor? Yes, sir.
Okay.
2 dead children buried in the defendant Chad Daybell's backyard in September of 2019. The next month, his wife is found dead in their marital bed. 17 days after the death of
Sounds
his
good,
wife,
right?
Tammy Daybell, this defendant is photographed laughing and dancing on a beach in Hawaii at his wedding. It's Lori Vallow, a woman who was his mistress and the mother of the children buried in the graves on his property. 3 dead bodies. This defendant believed he had a right beyond the ordinary. When he had a chance at what he considered his rightful destiny, he made sure that no person or no law would stand in his way. His desire for sex, money, and power led him to pursue those ambitions. And this pursuit led to the deaths of his wife and Lori's 2 innocent children. Chad Daybell is an author who wrote books about the apocalypse. During this trial, you will hear a story more troubling. And the story is real. Chapter 1. The defendant was a seemingly ordinary man. You'll see that he craved significance. He worked in journalism and he worked as a sexton in a graveyard. He married his wife Tammy in 1990 after meeting at Brigham Young University, and they settled in Utah. As a full-time homemaker and mother, Tammy's love for her family was boundless. Together, Tammy and the defendant started a small publishing company, which Tammy supported in many ways. They had 5 children together. They moved to Idaho, where Tammy became a beloved school librarian. She was devoted to service, her community, and her faith. But for this defendant, that ordinary existence was not enough. Chapter 2. Lori Vallow was a homemaker from Arizona. Your Honor, this might just, sorry, Mr.
Let's see if we get a replacement mic.
They're like, Your Honor, this mic.
I think
We all
it's,
like,
I got it working now.
Okay.
I noticed that the PowerPoint is not up.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is
I think
messing
you
with
might
them
stop.
too.
Okay, I didn't turn it off this time, so
You might have a bad battery.
I do have a presentation for you as well, just to recap what's going on here. So let's watch the opening statements and then we'll go through that. And then afterwards, we'll watch the jury instructions for those interested, okay? Thank you for being here. Welcome, mods, patrons, members, everyone. If you're new here, welcome as well. Kristen says, do they have CC on the court feed? No, but we do.
Screen as well.
Just turn
Your
your
Honor, it's
CC
up
on.
on the screen, and I can plug in the HDMI. I'm not sure why it's not. Transfer.
Yeah, this audio, shame. Let's go forward.
Apologies for the interruption, ladies and gentlemen. Chapter 2. Lori Vallow was a homemaker from Arizona. She was married to her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, and she was the mother to Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. Tylee was a normal, vibrant teenage girl. She loved her friends. You'll hear that she loved her Jeep. She loved Chipotle. She loved her little brother, JJ. JJ was a 7-year-old boy on the autism spectrum. He required extensive special care and needs. He loved his sister. You'll hear about a pivotal date that set in motion the deaths of Tammy, Tylee, and JJ. October 26, 2018. That was the day when Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow met at a religious conference in St. George, Utah, where they were introduced by a mutual acquaintance. At this time, both still married to other spouses. That introduction set in motion the reality you're going to hear about.
Quick pause. I know we can't see much of what they're showing there. I'm going to try to just play with the contrast and the settings here, just in case we can see a little bit. But it seems like they are showing pictures, of course, of Lori, Chad, of the victims. So I'm just going to play with it. But if you've never seen it before, we've done plenty of presentations on this case.
We know what happened next through the defendant's own words. You'll hear. Though both married, Chad and Lori began to have an affair. You will hear excerpts from the defendant's extended text messages to Lori that reveal his mindset and his motivations. In his thirst for sex, power, and money, Chad created an alternate reality where they called themselves James and Elena, names that Chad claimed were from past lives they had lived together. The defendant's text messages reveal their story of lust and their plan for a future together. Chad Daybell wrote that upon meeting Lori Vallow, he experienced a happiness unmatched by anything else in his 50 years. He was captivated by her appearance, so much so he said she was out of his league. You will hear evidence in his own words, how he was taken by her beauty and spoke about their sexual encounters on many occasions. More than anything else, Chad's obsession with Lori was rooted in her adoration for him. She was the mirror reflecting the grandeur he saw in himself. He called her an exalted goddess. He told her in writing that she had returned to Earth to perform a special mission. Part of that mission included being with him. They soon came together and turned their dreams into a plan for the future. One free from what they called obstacles, and those obstacles were Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. Chapter 3. You'll hear that in the world that Chad and Lori planned for themselves, they identified those who stood in the way of their dream as dark. Their spouses, Lori's own children, and any who oppose them were labeled sometimes as dark spirits or even zombies. This was more than an alleged belief of right-wing labor. The evidence will show that it was a convenient narrative that dehumanized people who stood in their way and who were labeled as obstacles. This narrative gave them the pretext to remove people from this world for their own good. Chad and Lori preached that only through spiritual intervention, what they sometimes call casting, sometimes through burning, or even through death, that these dark spirits be cleansed. Enter Alex Cox, Lori's devoted brother. Chad and Lori manipulated Alex with promises of spiritual rewards. They wielded their influence over Alex, drawing him into their plotting and planning of their own future. After the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, Chad Daybell gave Alex a blessing. This blessing was reported by Lori, who was present. And in that blessing, he said to Alex, "You have earned the privilege to be a member of their exclusive religious group." And he also said to him, "You have already assisted us in ways that can never be repaid." But you will also see other text messages. Chad and Lori discussed more earthly concerns, that Alex could be the one to implicate them. Alex knew this as well. Shortly before he died, on December 12th, 2019, he told his wife, Zuana Pastenis, who you will hear from, he was afraid he was going to see Chad and Lori's fall back. Chapter 4. Once their calculated plan was devised, it only took months to execute and remove perceived obstacles in Chad Daybell's path to a new life. Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, who was labeled as dark by the defendant, was shot and killed by Alex Cox in Arizona. Lori stood to gain $1 million, money that could fund Chad and Lori's future. Yet following Charles's death, Lori Vallow awaited a $1 million life insurance payout that never came, only to learn that the beneficiary was no longer her. Upon learning she would not receive that insurance money, Lori would text Chad, "I'll still get the $4,000 a month from SS, meaning Social Security." Chad replied to her in a text that read, "It will be interesting to see if it got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest." Tylee Ryan, also branded dark and a zombie, was last seen on September 8, 2019. Subsequent investigations revealed the horrifying truth. Her remains, charred and dismembered, were found in a grave on Chad Daybell's property. Without Charles's $1 million in insurance money to support them, Lori Vallow continued to illegally receive Tylee's Social Security benefits, provided after the death of Tylee's biological father, who had been Lori's third husband. According to this defendant, JJ Vallow, Lori's son, was also possessed. After he was labeled as a dark entity, his fate was no less tragic than his sister's. His young wife was also claimed. Later, his bound body was discovered buried in Chad's backyard, his death by suffocation. Yet while JJ was missing, Lori continued to illegally receive JJ's Social Security benefit, money provided by Charles Vallow's dad. Tammy Daybell, a vivacious, healthy mother, was another individual labeled as a dark spirit to be removed. On October 9th of 2019, she reported being shot at night near her home by a man covered in black. She thought it was a paintball gun. On October 19th, 10 days later, she died in her own home with her husband present. This was soon after an increase in the value of her life insurance to more than $400,000. This defendant rapidly cashed in that life insurance and began looking for condos in Hawaii with Lori. You'll see the rental application he submitted for a couple with no kids. Medical examiners would later determine that the only reasonable explanation for Tammy's death was not of natural causes, but rather a homicide. In fact, you will hear from multiple witnesses that Chad predicted multiple times that Tammy would die in early death. Chapter 5. 17 days after his wife's death, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow got married and celebrated on a beach in Hawaii, symbolizing what he called their eternal union. Chad and Lori were preparing their wedding well before Tammy's death. Lori was shopping for wedding rings while Tammy was still alive. Now, without the earthly obstacles of spouses and young children, and with Tammy's insurance policy and the children's Social Security funds, they could live the life that Chad and Lori wanted. Nothing was going to stand in their way. Chapter 6. Unfortunately for this defendant, reality soon shattered their bliss. Two things led law enforcement to his and Lori's door. On October 2nd, 2019, Lori Vallow's nephew-in-law, a man named Brandon Boudreaux, was shot at in Arizona by someone from what he believed was Tylee's Jeep. Law enforcement in Arizona investigating Brandon's shooting contacted law enforcement in Fremont County, Idaho, to look for Alex Cox and for Tylee's Jeep. And you'll hear that Jeep was later found in Rexburg, Idaho, in Madison County. Meanwhile, J.J. Vallow's grandmother, concerned that she hadn't seen or heard from him in months, asked police for help. The police followed up and located Lori in Rexburg, Idaho, where the police did a welfare check at Lori's apartment. Law enforcement arrived at Lori's door on November 26, 2019. When asked about Lori, Chad first told law enforcement he didn't know her very well, despite the fact that they were married and had been in a relationship for over a year. Lies by Lori to police about JJ and Tylee's whereabouts, and then a move to Hawaii, and Lori's unwillingness to present her children to law enforcement to prove their well-being led to her arrest and extradition.
Just going to do a quick pause. I hope I'm not too loud compared to the audio. The audio from the courtroom is so terrible. I've tried to just tweak it a bit and boost it a bit, but it sounds like we're underwater just about. Forensic Fury says earbuds are helping here. Earbuds help a little bit, but that microphone, my goodness. Okay, we're just having a quick pause during opening statements to talk about the microphone. Can't they get better mics? Come on, people. Anyway, so I hope that you can hear generally what they're doing is describing the timeline, which we've gone over many times as well. So thankfully, if you've been following the case, you're not missing too much so far. Okay, I think this attorney's name is Rob Wood. There's 4 state prosecutors and there's 1 defense attorney. Okay. So yeah, Stefan says, even his cheap tie is more expensive than his mic. G. I know, right? I know. Okay, so let's just do our best. There's nothing more I can do with this audio, even with a boost. Shame. Okay, so let's try.
As Lori refused to produce her children, law enforcement continued their search for Tylee and JJ. During that search, they located a unique text message that this defendant, Chad Daybell, had sent to his wife, Tammy, on September 9th, 2019, which was the day after Tylee's last known appearance. You'll hear from the FBI agent who found that message. But this message seemed longer than his usual text to Tammy, and it had a more conversational tone. In that text, Chad claimed he'd had an interesting morning, that he'd shot a raccoon, that he'd buried it in what they called the pet cemetery, and that he'd had a fire on the property where he'd burned some wood debris. When law enforcement finally went to the defendant's property the following June, they didn't find a raccoon. They found Tylee's burnt remains that were buried in the pet cemetery. And they found JJ nearby, buried under a tree near a pond. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been told this will be a lengthy trial. You will hear from many witnesses. You will hear a lot of evidence. You're going to hear a lot of dates. The following is just a timeline of major events to help understand when these things took place. October 26, 2018, Chad and Lori meet in St. George, Utah. July 11, 2019, Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, was shot and killed by Alex Cox. Between August 31st and September 1st, Lori, Alex Cox, and Tylee and JJ moved to Rexburg, Idaho, just a few miles south of the defendant's home. Tylee's last known sighting was September 8, 2019. The text I just spoke of about the raccoon was sent by the defendant to his wife September 9, 2019. JJ's last known sighting you'll hear about September 22nd. The attempted homicide of Brandon Boudreaux in Arizona was October 2nd. The shooting I mentioned of Tammy, the shooting at her, the unsuccessful shooting, October 9th, 2019. Tammy's death, October 19th, 2019. 17 days later, Chad and Lori marry in Hawaii. Law enforcement did a welfare check looking for JJ November 26, 2019 in Rexford, Idaho. November 26th and 27th, Chad and Lori leave town. June 9th, 2020, Tylee and JJ's remains are found on Chad's property. As I said, you're going to hear a lot of evidence from a lot of witnesses. And there's going to be kind of different groups of evidence you're going to hear from. You'll hear from law enforcement, some of whom will give you a broad overview of the investigation and what they did, how the search for Tylee and JJ turned to a case of murder. You'll hear how it began by people who knew Lori and Chad, the James and Elena. You'll hear about the James and Elena story and about their relationship with each other and how they pursued their dream, their plan for a life together. You'll hear in the defendant's own words, people referred to as obstacles, how they need to be gotten rid of. You're going to hear financial evidence. You'll hear from an FBI forensic accountant and a detective, a Social Security administrator, investigator, who will talk about the finances involved in this case. You'll hear more from law enforcement, from multiple law enforcement agencies, the Rexford Police, the Fremont County Sheriff's Department, the FBI, Social Security Administration, about the investigation into these crimes. You will see forensic evidence. You'll see DNA testing to identify the body of Tylee. You'll see DNA testing that showed DNA from Tylee was found on at least 2 tools in the defendant's shed. You'll hear digital evidence dealing with geolocation data tied to certain phones that were used in this case. You'll hear from Hawaii law enforcement about searches they performed in Hawaii on the defendant and his wife. And finally, you will hear many of this defendant's own words. You will hear voice recordings of this defendant. You'll hear, recorded phone calls between him and his wife, Lori Vallow. You'll read multiple texts that he and Lori sent back, and other texts he sent. Chapter 9, what's unwritten. The defendant stands before you today, charged with multiple crimes. First-degree murder for the death of Tammy Daybell. First-degree murder for the death of Tylee Ryan. First-degree murder for the death of J.J. Vallow. Conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy Daybell. Conspiracy to commit murder and grand theft by deception, the death of Tylee Ryan. Conspiracy to commit murder and grand theft by deception for the death of J.J. Vallow. And insurance fraud. Two dead children buried in this defendant's backyard. The next month, his wife dead in their bed. 17 days later, this defendant marries Lori Vallow. Members of the jury, days or probably weeks from now, when the evidence in this trial is fully unfolded, we will have the opportunity to speak with you again. And at that time, we will ask you to end this horrible narrative. Your verdict will be the link that writes the final chapter of this tragic saga. A chapter that delivers justice for Tammy, justice for JJ, and justice for Tylee. Thank you.
That wasn't very long. Okay. Defense time. Let's just quickly.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wood. That will conclude the opening statement of the state. Mr. Pryor, a couple of questions. First, is the defense going to give an opening statement now or defer until later? And second, if you are going to give an opening statement, would you prefer we take a mid-morning recess or go forward?
Judge, could we take a short recess? And I have a
Okay, I think this is a good time then for our mid-morning break. We'll go ahead and take that now. And then once that's concluded, Mr. Pryor can give his opening statement to the defense.
All rise.
Okay. And there we go. Okay, so hold on 1 second, please. Let me take this off for us quickly. Sorry, I just quickly want to make sure that I've got space to show you things. Just wait. We're going to do this and we'll wait. They're taking a mid-morning break now. They just got started. You don't need a break, people. Just get to it, okay? Anyway, I have a presentation for you. Let me fetch it quickly. Thank you all for being here. Glad we could see the state's opening statements. Right? With a crappy microphone. Oh dear. It was a pretty simple, a pretty simple opening. Surprisingly not very emotive. I agree with that. It was a little bit, I don't know. What do you think about it? In my opinion, I don't know if it's like that impactful. I mean, the jury is hearing this for the first time. But yes, they've got so much evidence, right? I feel like in Lori Vallow Daybell's trial, the opening statements were much more memorable. Remember, they started with money, power, and sex. That's what Lori Vallow was after, you know, at all cost. So that was very good. Okay, now presentation time. Here we go. So, okay, Chad Daybell trial. That's what we're busy watching. In case you didn't know, welcome. Okay, my name is Grizzly K. This is Grizzly True Crime. Welcome to it, especially if you are new. Hope you'll consider subscribing and becoming part of this community. Now, with this trial, as I've said many times before, in case you missed it, I'm not going to be streaming the entire trial. It's 8 to 10 weeks long, and I'm going to be doing highlights, recaps, shorts, community posts, videos, live stream, whatever, all the things, but I'm not going to be streaming it live, okay? Because there's a very busy month coming up in May with many other trials that we don't want to miss either. And I'm just one person. I can't do it all. So what I'm going to do is now show you this presentation. We watched the state's opening statements. Now we're going to go through a little presentation quickly while they are on their morning break. And then after that, we're going to be watching the defense's opening statements. So there is a playlist for this case. If you've never heard of it before, we've done plenty of, there was a part 1, 2, 3, and 4 deep dive as well with who's who and what's what and what happened in the timeline. And recently I also did there was that episode we just recently did, who's this weirdo on trial? A lot of information about him, about the case and everything. If you haven't checked it out, do check it out. So Chad Daybell's trial, jury selection started on April 1st and it concluded on Monday, April 8th of 2024. There are 10 men and 8 women on the jury, which is the same split as in Lori's trial. There were also 10 men and 8 women in her trial on the jury. So 10 men, 8 women on this jury. That yes, it's not the usual number we see because of course there's 18 total here, so they've got more alternates than usual, I guess also because it is such a long trial and it's a death penalty case. So Lori's trial also started with opening statements on April 10th. It's 1 year, exactly 1 year ago today, was opening statements for Lori Vallow Daybell. That's Chad Daybell's wife, if you didn't know. The two of them, okay? And their freaking portal and their weird zombie charts and greedy, murderous lust. I don't know what else to call it. But yeah, they had their trials were severed. We've gone over that before. So I just want to say that, yeah, it also started on April 10th. I wonder if they read anything into that. Like if they think it was written in the stars or something, right? Because to start on the same day a year later, it's quite odd. Now, they said, especially after an eclipse. Can you imagine what these two are thinking? They're like, it was an eclipse. It's a sign. April 10th. Anyway, so this is a death penalty trial and it's expected to last 8 to 10 weeks. So there will, be the 2 phases of the trial as well. The guilt or innocence phase and then the punishment phase if they do decide to, well, the state said they are pursuing the death penalty. So that's why it's also so long. We've seen that type of process before in another trial, the Burgos Aviles one, if you remember. So the judge is Stephen Boyce. It's the same judge that presided over Lori's trial. And that, on July 31st of 2023, at the sentencing, he said to Lori, you justified all of this by going down a bizarre religious rabbit hole. And clearly, you're still down there. I love that line. I don't know if any of you re-listened to the Lori Vallow Daybell opening statements. I did. I was just like listening to see if we hear this, can we compare? And I mean, I must say, to me, those opening statements by Lindsay Blake last year for Lori Vallow they were very impactful and memorable. Unfortunately, we couldn't see a thing. It was an audio-only trial. This will be, as you can see, live streamed. So, Chad Daybell, 55 years old. I didn't write Lori Vallow's age there. Isn't she 49? Lori Vallow age. Oh, she's 50 now. Okay. So, Chad Daybell, first degree murder of JJ Vallow, first degree murder. These are the charges he's facing of Tylee, Ryan. Those are Lori Vallow Daybell's 2 children. And then first degree murder for Tammy Daybell, his wife. Some people say former wife or ex-wife, but they were by no means separated. He wasn't getting divorced from her. Him and Lori were actually having an affair and just decided, yeah, she's got to go. She's a zombie. She's got to go, and her children have to go. And then these 2 idiots have to go to Hawaii and get married, right? And have a photographer as well, because people ask, who took the photos? The photographer. They were all in. Thank you so much, guilty of crime. So, also 2 counts of insurance fraud, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder, and grand theft. So, because what they did was take people out and then go after their life insurance. Chad Daybell went as far as calling the funeral home when Charles Vallow, Lori's 4th husband, was shot by her brother, Alex. If you've never heard of this case, you must be like, what? It's a lot. And she's facing charges in Arizona. She's currently in Arizona. She's facing those charges. There'll probably be a new trial for that, for conspiracy to commit his murder. Anyway, when he was murdered, Chad Daybell had actually been calling the funeral home. He was pretending to be Charles Vallow's uncle, because these 2 were after money. Okay, so that's why there's these insurance fraud ones. He took out a whole bunch of almost $500,000 on Tammy Daybell for life insurance. My goodness. So these are the charges. Just a quick bullet point overview of what Chad Daybell is facing in this trial. Lori Vallow Daybell faced charges of first degree murder for JJ Vallow. Her son was only 7 years old. First degree murder of Tylee Ryan, 16. Conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife. Additional conspiracy to commit murder charges and grand theft. She was sentenced to consecutive life sentences for, respectively, the murder of Tylee, the murder of JJ, and the conspiracy to commit murder charge of Tammy, in addition to fines and restitution for the grand theft charges. So because it's consecutive like that, it's no parole. She's going to be in prison for the rest of her life. And I don't think she's even realized it yet. And she's still facing charges for Charles Vallow's murder. Right? Ellen says, thank you for the recap. I forgot about some of the zombie details. There are 2 other live streams that we had last week, which are on the playlist that you might want to check out before really getting into this trial, because we recapped quite nicely there as well. Okay? So welcome, Crime Curious, and welcome everyone who's here. Okay, so let's continue with this little presentation that I made for you, which is actually perfect timing, for a little mid-morning coffee break that they're having here. Okay, so the victims, which is what this trial, of course, is for, all about justice for the victims, full justice. Of course, both have to be held accountable. I wonder, in your opinion, if you think, who really was the mastermind behind all of this? Chad Daybell or Lori Vallow Daybell? That's always a very interesting question. I think that just both of them, I wish they'd never met each other. Because the 2 of them colliding with those crazy ideas, both of them believing they had near-death experiences, both of them believing that they were very, very special, okay? Way above everyone else. It's like narcissist gone wild, and then greedy and horny. And it's just like, wow, the things they did. I can't even. Okay, so the victims are Tammy Daybell. She was only 49 years old. She died in October of 2019, and she was asphyxiated. Sorry, I didn't put the whole date there. I don't know why I didn't finish my presentation there. JJ Vallow, 7 years old, died September 23rd of 2019, and he was also asphyxiated. But it's terrible. The details of the children's deaths, what we heard from the first trial. Wow. Like JJ Vallow, a 7-year-old boy with a bag over his head and duct tape over his mouth and his hands tied to his chest in his red PJs. I can't even. Oh my goodness. And Tylee Ryan, 16, she died September 8th, 2019. And she was dismembered. She was murdered, but she was dismembered and burned. And they don't know exactly how she died. So that is unbelievable to think of, I don't even know what word to use, the evil that these two, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, committed. How they killed people, who they killed, why. It's just absolutely terrible. Linda, thank you so much for being a member for 29 months. Okay, so I really hope that there will be, and I do believe, I'm confident there will be full justice for the victims and their families. Of course, this is round 2 for the families and many of the witnesses. You know, I feel so sorry for them. It's going to be very intense. And Lori Vallow trial was 6 weeks. Chad Daybell is going to be 8 to 10 weeks. So it's going to be quite an exhausting 2 months, especially for family and friends who have to hear details again, and especially maybe more details this time, you know, because the children were buried on Chad Daybell's property. And when Tammy Daybell was murdered, Lori was in Hawaii. So I think we're going to hear a lot more about Tammy Daybell's murder. And I know that based on the interviews we've seen, Chad Daybell's children are struggling with it. They don't believe that their dad did this. So hearing all the evidence is going to be tough on everyone, right? Okay. So Crime Curious said, I believe Lori was the mastermind, but she made Chad believe that he was. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's what I'm thinking, right? Thinking you're the mastermind makes you as culpable as the real one, though, in my opinion. So yeah, if you look at Lori Vallow's track record and how many people died around her, and then, including her own brother eventually, which they say is from natural causes. I still wonder about that one. But then you also look at Chad Daybell's visions and his books and the seminars and the things he was starting to teach and the groups he was starting to form. It's all, both of them, high risk, right? And meeting each other, oh boy. Now, the prosecution includes Lindsay Blake. She delivered the opening statements in Lori's trial. Rob Wood, he delivered the closing arguments in Lori's trial, so maybe it'll be the other way around this time. I don't know. Ingrid Beatty and Rocky Wixon. Last time, Rachel Smith was part of the team, and she has since left the team. I can't remember what she's doing, but it wasn't anything, you know, strange or shocking or drama with it. It was just like, okay, this is the team now. All right, so that's the prosecution. Kelly Kay said, do we know if Daybell's kids are attending? I'm not too sure, actually, but I would assume they would be. I can only assume that they would be, or they will be watching, you know. The defense attorney is John Pryor. It's one defense attorney for Chad Daybell. He's been Chad's attorney since May of 2021. He has solely represented him since then. He attended every day of Lori's trial. In a recent motion, John Pryor argued that he wanted to stay on the case, but he needed to withdraw because he was not a death penalty qualified attorney. He didn't have enough time to prepare for the trial, and that Daybell could no longer afford to pay him. That motion was denied. The judge said, there's no way that you're going anywhere because that would delay the trial by another year. And they absolutely, of course, didn't want that. They'd waited long enough now to get here. So the judge was like, you're staying on the case, and that's that. Thank you very much. Due to an interview that he conducted with the media 2 weeks ago, there's now a gag order in place. If we have some time now in this little mid-morning break, I will show that to you. It was very short, but when he did that interview, the judge was like, what? That's it, there's a gag order. Okay, which makes sense. Potential witnesses. So I'm sure you all, if you don't know Nate Eaton from EastIdahoNews, I think he delivers some of the best coverage of this case out there. There's many really good people doing great coverage, like Pretty Lies and Alibis and Hidden to Crime. But Nate Eaton, oh my goodness. He flew to Hawaii, you know, when the police had learned, oh my goodness, those two are in Hawaii. I mean, they were looking frantically for them because they were looking for the children. And then they're like honeymooning in Hawaii. So Nate Eaton actually flew there and tried to interview them in the parking lot of a resort, and they just wouldn't talk. They wouldn't talk to him. But that was quite something to see. Nate Eaton has also extensively covered the Dylan Rounds case. And if you saw my community tab or my YouTube short, I also provided that update about Dylan Rounds' remains being found. So I don't want to distract the chat with that now. It was very sad news. But he also has updates on that. And that's also where a lot of us learned about him. I learned about him from the Lori Vallow case. But also Dylan Rounds. So my point is, this is a little screenshot from his stream the other day on EastIdahoNews. And he was actually showing his notebook from when he attended Lori Vallow trial. and he wrote down all the witness names. So he was just going over this just to show who the potential witnesses could be, because there could be quite a bit of crossover. Of course, it would be similar people, because Lori and Chad thought that they were, I don't know, reigning in the 144,000 for the second coming of Christ, and like Melanie Gibb and Zulema Pastines, who was married to Lori's brother, and all these people will very likely be back on the stand, right? So last time the first witness on the stand was actually Kay Woodcock, and then Brenda Boudreaux. Lori's also facing charges for attempted murder of Mr. Boudreaux. Okay, so I just want to show you this. If you want to pause and read, you can. But yeah, maybe you heard some of this if you did listen to Lori's trial. Definitely a lot of us here are visual learners, so I know that trial, Lori Vallow's trial, was quite challenging because it was audio only, and I'm not a podcast. I listened as much as I could, and to all the key witnesses, and we broke down some of that as well. We did quite a few episodes, but man, I'm so glad they've got cameras in the courtroom now. I just really wish that they would have better microphones. Okay, so they had 59 witnesses in total last time, I would assume, for the state. Yes? Okay. I'm just checking what you guys are saying. Yeah, who's saying not Ohio? Hawaii. Hawaii. Is closed caption saying Ohio? Hawaii. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. I just found it very interesting. Shame. These reporters, they're there all day, every day, sitting there in the trial, doing all the things. I know we also, when we stream trials, we're here all day, but you know what I mean? Like being there, it must be quite exhausting, and being away from family and all of that, of course, but I know why they're doing it. We all want to see justice for the victim. So here we've got Chad Daybell. This guy. Gravedigger digs his own grave. I don't know. I hope that's my title for sentencing. Yeah. Former gravedigger dug his own grave. Okay. So this is just a picture of his property where they'd found the children's bodies. My goodness. Okay, yeah. Lily Pauly says, I'm not a fan of podcasts. I need something to look at. Me too. I must say. Me too. I need to watch. Okay, that's why I love YouTube, and that's why I'm on YouTube. Okay, Miss Holmes said, I love this horrible pic of Dumbbell. Look at him. 1 foot in the grave. Yes, sir. Exactly. So now I quickly want to show you this. That's it for my presentation, I think. Is it? Yes, it is. Okay, let's check there. I'm just going to bring this across here so I can monitor it. Here is the interview that, what's his name? John Pryor did. Now, which one is it? I just want to make sure I show the right one. Nope, that's not it. I'm going to mess up the sizing now. I don't want to mess up the sizing of the courtroom. Just wait 1 second. Yeah, we could use this one. Okay. So, have a look. This is the interview that got the gag order going. Here we go.
Reporter Don Nelson at the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, Idaho. The trial of Chad Daybell is expected to last anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. If convicted, Daybell could face the death penalty. I sat down with an exclusive interview with Daybell's attorney, John Pryor, ahead of the proceedings. Attorney John Pryor has been working on the Chad Daybell case for almost 4 years. And you might wonder how Pryor was thrust into the national spotlight.
All I can say is that he reached out to me, and that's how it started. And at this point, we're ready to go forward, and he wants to tell his story.
That story will start next week with jury selection in a trial that's expected to last anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. And if you think Pryor has assembled a team to take on this high-profile case, think again.
Well, unfortunately, Don, I'm doing this myself, so that makes things a little challenging. But fortunately, I've had about 3 years and 10 months to go through all the evidence, to sort of look at what I want to present to the jury, and I'm looking forward to my opportunity to do that.
I asked Pryor, who attended Lori Vallow Daybell's trial on a regular basis, if he learned anything that he could use in Chad Daybell's case.
Did I learn a lot of new things? Oh, absolutely. Did I see what the prosecutor intends to do? Yes. Was it a surprise? No.
I was also curious whether Lori could be called to the stand.
It's possible. It's always possible. Anybody who's connected to a case could be called. And I don't want to and I want to be clear. I'm not telling you that I am or that the state is or anybody else is, but anybody can be called. If you have an involvement in this case, potentially you could become a witness in this case.
The trial hasn't started yet, but John Pryor is grateful for one thing.
I'm grateful that Judge Boyce decided to move the trial over to Ada County. One of the main reasons I'm grateful is I know the folks in Ada County. I've spent better than half my life living here.
And for the next few months, most of that time will be spent at the Ada County Courthouse.
Yes, indeed. Okay, what is this? Oh, yeah. Let me show you. This is Larry Woodcock, J.J. Vallow's grandpa. And he's a very cool dude. So let's listen to what he says.
All right, Larry, what was it like walking in the courthouse today?
It was deja vu all
That's Nate Eaton interviewing him. So this is from EastIdahoNews. Let me just quickly boost it so that you can hear nicely.
over again. This time, so much less stress.
Why is that?
I think we fought the battle with Lori because we loved Lori. We trusted Lori. She lost that trust. I've seen the worst. I've heard the worst. And I feel like there's evidence that we have not heard, and there's probably some evidence that we have not seen. But I think that Kay and I, our families, are prepared for this. And more so than the first time, because we were newbies the first time. I think a lot of people were newbies to this. And I feel like that we're in a better place mentally, physically, emotionally.
What was it like seeing Chad right there 10 feet in front of you?
You know, seeing Chad in front of me was a little disappointing in the fact that I look at Chad, and I don't look at Chad, I look at the photographs that I saw of JJ, the remains of Tylee and Tammy. For what? It never made sense. I don't think it ever will make sense. So in looking at Chad, I just don't have any. I don't feel anything. I really don't.
So a lot less stress this time around, and any prediction on how long this trial will take? What are you thinking?
I will never have a prediction about that. If we walked in Monday morning and they said they have reached a verdict, a plea, that's fine. I've come to grips with the death penalty. I was adamant about it. When this happened, I was angry. I was angry beyond, I just couldn't even help myself. Now, there's worse things than dying in life.
So what would you say to the Daybell family as far as Tammy's siblings and parents? This trial is for them. I mean, this is about Tammy and the man they knew. They didn't really know Lori. Any advice you'd share for them?
What I want to share with them is I have never stopped praying for his family. I know what I've gone through, and I honestly can't imagine what his children are going through. I feel for him, and I feel for his family. And the brothers in that family, I love. I consider them friends. But, you know, we're all going through this together, and I think emotionally we're bound and bonded.
Okay, anything you want to add?
Right. Thank y'all, and thanks for caring for Kay and I. We love y'all.
Shame. That is Larry Woodcock, the grandfather of J.J. Vallow, who's one of the victims. Also, in one of the recap live streams, someone said, why do people always forget about Charles Vallow? Because he's also a victim. But we're not forgetting about Charles. Lori is going to face charges. Well, she is facing charges for that in Arizona, and there'll be likely another trial there for that. In Lori Vallow Daybell's trial, it was all about her children's murders and Tammy Daybell's as well. And then, because it's her and Chad that allegedly committed those together, right? And with her brother, who's also deceased. Oh my goodness. Let me just show you this quickly here. So, JJ Vallow is in the middle there. So there's Tammy, JJ, and Tylee. And so in Chad Daybell's trial, he's also facing charges for the murder, first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell, his wife, JJ Vallow, and Tylee Ryan. So his wife and Lori's 2 children. Okay, 2 out of 3 children. Colby Ryan is still out there. He's alive and well, married. So, yeah, shame, man. These poor people. And this must be exhausting, going through this all again. Staying there, going to court every day, right? My goodness. Essen said, I'm jumping between. I want to say hi, hello, and thank you for being here. Okay, so I want to just quickly... Wait, let me just monitor the court. We are monitoring the court feed because they are on their mid-morning break. So in case you're wondering why on earth did we watch, the opening statements for the state and now there's a break, well, that's what the judge decided. There will be a break after the state's opening statements. So, I don't know, a mid-morning break would normally be about 15 minutes, but you just never know. 15 to 30. So what I have for you now here is, let me read you this because it's a good recap from the Washington Post about this trial. Who's who in the triple murder trial of Chad Daybell. Okay, I'm just going to take this picture off so we could see clearly here. Clearly Google wants me to buy an office chair. Okay, so just hold on there. Here we go. Okay. So, Boise, Idaho. Chad Daybell, a self-published doomsday fiction author, is on trial in Idaho in the deaths of his wife and his new girlfriend's 2 children, who he's now married to, of course, Lori Vallow. It's a complex triple murder trial that investigators say involves unusual claims that the victims were possessed by evil spirits and more typical claims related to life insurance and social security benefits. Happy Grizzly Versary Mooney. I like the way they word that. There's unusual claims that the victims were possessed by evil spirits and zombies, but then there's also the more typical claims related to life insurance and social security benefits. Okay, they are coming back to the courtroom. Judge, I'm trying to read to them, okay? Let me just quickly read this last paragraph. The children's mother, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been sentenced to life in prison, but Chad Daybell has pleaded not guilty to murder, conspiracy, insurance fraud charges in the deaths of his late wife, Tammy Daybell, as well as the children in JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, right? The trial is expected to take more than 2 months, they say 8 to 10 weeks. Here's a look at some of the people connected to the case. We're looking at Chad Daybell. We've just done a presentation, so I don't have to read you this. It could have been cool to save us some time, but I'm going to now switch to the judge's feed. Is there sound on yet? Doesn't look like it. No sound yet. Can we still read? Okay, wait. We're waiting for it. Okay. While we wait, I could still read it to you. The judge is in control of the cameras in this courtroom, so it's going to be this zoom view throughout the trial. That's the one negative when judges take control of the courtroom cameras, right? When there's companies in there, then we have a cameraman that's focusing on the witness and the judge and everything. It's not ideal, but at least we can see. I'm so happy that we could see this trial, As you know, I'm going to be highlighting, recapping all that. Not streaming the entire trial, but sure. With Lori Vallow, there was only audio. Okay, so I'm guessing, are they waiting for the jury or what? Just hold on 1 second. Let me do this and get that article so that I can read it to you while we monitor that.
All rise.
And they're back. See, every time I threaten with the article, they come back. Now we're going to watch the defense's opening statements. John Pryor, now you've seen who's who in the courtroom, right? There's Chad. Oh my goodness. Let me just put myself up here.
All right, thank you. Please be seated.
They better not show the jury. Okay.
We've concluded our morning recess. We're back on the record on KCR 22-21-16-23, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. This is the time we'll next have opening statements by the defense. Mr. Pryor, is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. May I have the court's permission to enter the well?
You may.
Thank you.
And maybe check that microphone to make sure it is working. Okay?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As an introduction, I'm John Pryor. I'm the defense attorney for Mr. Daybell. And I'm from Meridian, Idaho. I'm an attorney from Meridian, Idaho, over here on the west side of the state. I want to talk to you a little bit today. And at my age, video presentations are not something that would come easy to me. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about my view of the case and the facts and evidence. And what's important are facts and evidence. I think that when we went through the jury selection process, we talked about facts and we talked about evidence. And the judge gave you an instruction to talk to you a little bit about you take into consideration the facts of this case and not be distracted by other things. Don't be distracted by speculation. Don't be distracted by guesses or assumptions or hunches. It all comes down to facts and evidence. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the facts and evidence in this case. Chad Daybell, and I'm learning this, and I've had some time to learn about this because it didn't come natural to me. But Chad Daybell went on what's called a mission early on in his life. And I guess what a mission is, and I'm not familiar with that, but I guess what a mission is they go away to a location and they talk to people about their religious beliefs. And Chad's faith, that was important as part of his faith. And when they return from these missions, they start the process of moving on with their lives. And when Chad got back from doing his mission in New Jersey, he met Tammy Daybell. Another fact that I discovered, and you'll hear a little bit about, is that Chad had an extended engagement, had an extended by his faith standards romance before they got married. Chad and Tammy dated for approximately 6 months. And what I understand is by their nature, 6 months is an extended dating process before you end up getting married. So after 6 months, they got married. They were married in Utah and proceeded then to have children. They have 5 children, now all 5 adult children. At some point, they moved back here to Idaho, or moved to Idaho, and they started a small publishing company. And you'll hear testimony that the publishing company was predominantly run by Tammy. Tammy managed it. Tammy was the brains behind the company. And Tammy basically took the reins and did everything that was necessary to move this publishing company. It was a small publishing company, a very small publishing company. And what they did is basically publish books. Chad would write these books. And he would write these books about his religious experiences. In his faith, he had certain beliefs, the faith that he practiced. You know, when he went on his mission, when he, read his interpretation of the books that he used for his faith, he started writing books about things that were consistent with his faith. Things like premonitions. We've all heard of premonitions, about being able to predict things, about being able to see maybe when things happen. And some people believe in that, some people don't. Some people have personally experienced that, or I've been here before. But he writes about his premonitions. He writes about good and evil, and what it means to be good, and what it means to be evil. He writes about dark and light. He writes about subjects that are a little darker, like death. And maybe the coming of the end of things, and when his savior in his mind is going to come back, and maybe there'll be some kind of a redemption of some sort. But his books covered a lot of subjects like that, and they were all based on fiction. In other words, he was writing these books about theories and things that came into his head, and he would write these stories. But he also wrote children's books, and he wrote books for teenagers. And he wrote these books about adventures and then, some crazy ideas about things that kids and teenagers get involved in. In about October of 2018, Chad was going out and he was invited by one of the witnesses that you'll hear in this case to speak about his books. And this was not uncommon. He would travel and he would be asked to say, well, come and talk about some of the things that you believe in. You've talked about these premonitions, some life experiences. You're going to hear testimony about that. And he was invited on one particular occasion in late October. And he attended this, and while he was there trying to sell his books, and like most of us who are business people, the focus of these meetings really was for Chad to try to get his books published, because that's how he made a living. And he was there in one of his booths trying to promote his books, and he laid them out there. And this beautifully stunning woman named Lori Vallow comes up. And she starts giving him a lot of attention.
No,
and she
sir.
pursued him. And she encouraged him. And you'll hear testimony that she went so far as to grab behind the booth and sort of help him in trying to sell some of his books. She obviously had an interest, and maybe she felt that he was this publisher, or maybe she had an opinion. You'll hear testimony about that. And then after the seminar, there was a length of time where there was no contact between the two of them, a month and a half, 2 months. And during that time, Chad Daybell went on his day-to-day life. He'd been married to Tammy for some 29 years, has no remarkable background of any kind. I think the testimony we'll offer will show I think he had a speeding ticket in 2005. But Lori Vallow was a different story. Lori Vallow was someone who, right out of high school, married her first husband. You'll hear testimony about this. That marriage was very short-lived, very short-lived. She then married husband number 2 a few years later, short-lived. And again, very short-lived marriage. And there's some testimony indication that there were some problems with the marriage that caused the breakup. But the concern seems to be, the theme seems to be that Lori's brother, Alex, and you're going to hear about Alex Cox. Alex Cox was Lori's protector. Alex Cox would do anything and everything to protect, aid, and assist Lori Vallow in whatever her endeavors, without unbridled question, anything. And if Alex Cox even perceived that there was a problem, Alex Cox reacted. You're going to hear testimony that in 2007, I believe it was in August of 2007, Lori Vallow had finished up going through her third marriage with Joseph Ryan. It was a tumultuous, you'll hear testimony that it was a tumultuous marriage, a terrible marriage. And Lori Vallow made accusations against Joseph Ryan of abusing their child, Tylee. Yes, the same Tylee. And during one of the visits of 2007, folks, and I want to tell you, you're going to hear testimony that in 2007, Chad Daybell didn't even know Lori Vallow existed. But Alex Cox, after one of the exchanges and the visitations with Tylee, Alex Cox approached Joseph Ryan and shot him with a taser and assaulted him. Was eventually charged with aggravated assault, was eventually put in jail, and had this on his record. And there was representation, the facts will suggest that at the time Joseph Ryan feared for his life. This was a serious situation. But it set the pattern for what we're dealing with Alex Cox. Whenever there was a problem or a threat to Lori Vallow, you'll hear testimony that Alex Cox came to the rescue. But Alex Cox would run without even question and do whatever was necessary to solve Lori Vallow's problems. We're going to fast forward then to 2019. Lori Vallow is still married to Charles Vallow. And the prosecuting attorney mentioned this, yes. Chad Daybell at that point, coming in January and February, started to have communications with Lori Vallow. And yes, folks, it turned into an inappropriate relationship. 2019 and forward. And yes, he was engaging in discussions. He was engaging in contact with her, all of the things that the prosecutor talked about in terms of a relationship. But subsequent to the seriousness of this relationship getting rolling, Alex Cox was at a visitation in 2019 with Charles Vallow. And Lori Vallow was there. Tylee Ryan was there. JJ was there. They were all present. And during that altercation and that supposed visit, much like with Joseph Ryan, Alex Cox took out a gun and shot Charles Vallow. And then after calling 911, he then finished the job and walked up to him at close range, finished him off. Now, you're going to hear testimony that in some way Chad Daybell is implicated in that. And you're going to hear further testimony that he was not. You're going to hear testimony and see documentation that suggests that the prosecuting attorney on review of this indicated that there is no likelihood of conviction of Chad Daybell. You'll hear testimony that Chad Daybell had nothing to do with the execution by Alex Cox, Charles Vallow. And the same for Brandon Boudreaux. You will hear that Chad Daybell is not being pursued for any involvement in the Brandon Boudreaux attempted murder. Those occurred and those are separate, as well as the Charles Vallow. So what we have is we have a situation where someone who's 29 years old, Chad Daybell, 29 years of marriage with Tammy Daybell, no discernible issues in his life. And then Lori Vallow comes in the picture, Miss Texas. You'll hear testimony about this beautiful, vivacious woman, very sexual person, and very manipulative. And she knows how to get what she wants. And she drew Chad Daybell into a relationship, and an unfortunate relationship, that Chad fell into. After that, things started rolling, and issues started happening that eventually, yes, there was a murder and there was a burial. And you've heard discussion about the backyard of Chad Daybell. Well, we have a 4.5-acre farm in Fremont County, Idaho. And you'll hear testimony that the body of J.J. Vallow was discovered behind an irrigation pond and a tree out in the pasture. So technically, yes, maybe the backyard, but more accurately described as the pasture, hidden behind a tree. You're going to hear testimony that also in the middle of this pasture was a raspberry patch, former raspberry patch, that was then turned into a place for them to bury the cats, the dogs, and all of the animals on the farm. Okay? Again, out in the pasture of the field and not the backyard. You'll hear testimony about that. You're going to hear from 4 experts that I'm going to bring forward. And these 4 experts, the first one is going to be Dr. Greg Hampenkian. And Dr. Hampenkian is a bit of a notable local from Boise State University. And Dr. Hampenkian is a DNA expert, considered one of the best DNA experts. He's been involved and has significant work that he's done on both the defense and for the prosecution. He was involved and led the team with Amanda Knox in Italy that got her exonerated because of the DNA evidence. He has substantial experience. And anybody or anyone who knows anything about DNA goes to Dr. Hampenkian first, because he is the guy. And Dr. Hampenkian is going to talk a little bit about the DNA evidence that's found on the scene. Dr. Hampenkian is going to talk about the fingerprint on the plastic that J.J. Vallow was discovered in, was that of Alex Cox. Dr. Hampenkian is going to talk about the hair sample that was found on the plastic of Alex Cox, and that it was Lori Vallow. Dr. Hampenkian is going to talk about several, and I mean several other hairs that were found on the plastic of J.J. Vallow. But he's also going to say that there was no DNA evidence, no hair sample of Chad Daybell on Tylee Ryan or on J.J. Vallow. You're then going to hear from Dr. Raven. And Dr. Raven is a forensic pathologist. And she's going to talk a little bit about the circumstances surrounding Tammy Daybell. And what Dr. Raven is going to say is that there's no indication that this is either a homicide or any other crime, and that the only conclusion she could come to is you can't determine what the cause of death was. There's no way to determine it. Tammy Daybell was buried. You'll hear testimony about that. And then a short time later, the police officers showed up and they dug her body up after she'd been buried, after she was laid to rest, and then continued after the body was pulled out of the ground and continued to examine it for whatever they were looking for. And what you're going to find is based on that, Dr. Raven's going to say you can't determine what the cause of death is. You're going to hear testimony from the Daybell children, from the children themselves. 4 of the 5 children, I think, three or 4 of the 5 children testimony. They're going to talk about their mother's health struggles. They're going to talk about their mother's use of various medicinal treatments that she would use, oils that she would put on her leg, medicine and different herbs that she would take, and that her mother was suffering from, a number of maladies, and that she would refuse to go see a doctor or get it treated. And Dr. Raven's going to enlighten you a little bit about some of the circumstances regarding Tammy Daybell. You're then going to hear from Patrick Eller. He's a forensic digital data examiner. And Patrick Eller is someone who has spent his life in the military working for various agencies, and we'll talk a little bit about that, within the government to do data retrieval and data research. And he's going to talk a little bit about the phone records that are involved in this case. He's going to specifically talk about the travels of Alex Cox, because you are going to hear testimony that Alex Cox went to Chad Daybell's property on the 9th of September. You're going to hear that Alex Cox approached Chad Daybell's property a half a dozen other, 5 or 6 other times. You're going to hear testimony that Alex Cox was there on the 23rd. And you're going to hear where Alex Cox was in a number of other times and places, and his whereabouts and his travels for about a 2.5 month period. And Patrick is going to, offer you some information and data to support all of that. And finally, you're going to hear from a forensic anthropologist, and his name's Eric Bartlink. And Mr. Bartlink is going to talk to you a little bit about the nature and the nature of how the remains of Tylee were burned. Eric Bartlink is going to talk to you a little bit about the lack of complete skeletal remains and why, when Tylee was dug down in the ground, there was not a complete set of skeletal remains. In fact, there were a number of pieces of that were missing. You're going to hear a lot of evidence, and the judge has talked to us a little bit about not making a decision until you hear all of the evidence. And there's a specific jury instruction that talks about that. The jury instruction is, consider all the evidence. Listen to the instructions from the court on how you're to proceed. Listen to the arguments of the prosecuting attorney and the defense. And then and only then do you make your decision. And at the conclusion of all that evidence, and at the conclusion of the judge's instructions, the arguments of both of the defense attorneys, I'm going to ask you folks to return the verdict not guilty. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your time.
The way he said not guilty was so under his voice.
That concludes the opening statement of the defense. Then this time we will commence with presenting evidence. I understand the state does have a first witness to follow.
Let's just hear who it is.
Your Honor, the state is prepared. We had spoken with your clerk earlier. We thought we were going to have a brief sidebar.
Oh, let's discuss our schedule and put there in sidebar. Sure.
Okay, they're doing sidebar. What we're going to do at this moment is listen to the jury instructions. Some of you are going to be like, oh no, yes, we've got homework to do. Okay, we wanted to first watch the state's opening statements and then the defense's opening statements. We had a little mid-morning break in between, so we did some presentation time and catching up, okay? So what I'm going to do now is play the jury instructions because they are important. Remember that we know things about this case because it's been, we've been following it for quite some time. Many here, you've heard of the case. The jury has never heard of the case. So just think about, imagine if you were on the jury and you're hearing all of this for the first time. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I think that the defense, they did a little better than the state at this point. We'll have to see when all this evidence comes out, of course, as all you're saying, where's the raccoon? If you don't know about the raccoon, yeah. Is the raccoon testifying? Where's the raccoon? But the bodies were on Chad's property. How's he going to explain that? Yes. But to start off, pointing the finger at Alex Cox, who obviously can't speak for himself, and he really was basically Lori's hitman. He would do anything that she asked, right? So it's not a bad defense strategy. It's not bad. Ellen says, I'd love to be on this jury. Now, is everyone excited? Are you all excited for jury instructions? Okay, just give me 1 second here. I would have to actually go back. Hold on 1 second. Let's fetch it all. Let's get it going. Thank you all for being here. As you know, the way that I'm going to be covering this trial is by doing highlights, recaps. It's incredibly long, this trial. I'll make sure I do my very best to keep it interesting for you, to maybe compare what they said at Lori's trial versus what they say at this one, stuff like that. So let's just quickly do this. Okay, let's fetch Judge Boyce's one. Can we please refresh? Okay, thank you. I wonder why he says like a stop button. I don't know. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to fetch another one. They're doing sidebar right now anyway. Okay, so we're going to go over here. All right. I hope that you enjoyed watching that with me. Go back to the beginning here. Okay. So this is how it started today. They were a little late today. That's okay. And we just want to hear what the jury, pretend now you're on the jury, okay? You're the 13,000th juror. Okay, so let's just go forward here. See where they actually started. How about that? There. Okay. Judge Boyce.
Deputy Vince Kaikamani.
Okay, and the state's permitted their case agent as it relates to victims. The court agrees they are permitted to see the.
In case you're wondering why I do this as well, it's nice to first watch the opening statements, and now we can, in hindsight, hear the jury instructions. And of course, it's also nice for replay watchers. And if you ever want to come back and watch this again with timestamps, it'll just be easy to navigate through. And I know not everyone's interested in hearing the jury instructions, although I think it's very important. So I wanted to do it this way around.
Proceedings, including if they are a witness, we would take up on a witness by witness.
I'm going forward. Yeah, they're waiting for the jury. Okay, so hold on.
Oh, the jury is present and accounted for.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bale. Please be seated.
And there's one other silver lining to doing it this way. We can speed it up. It's going to be great, okay? So here we go.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. We're on the record on Fremont County KCR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. We're ready to proceed with opening arguments and initial instructions this morning to you as jurors. The court notes that the prosecution is present as well as the defendant and the defense attorney representing him as well. We have qualified this panel of 18 jurors consisting of our 12 jurors with 6 alternates, and they are now seated for trial. Let me start with the state and ask, will the state agree that the jury has now been properly seated and ready to be sworn?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Will the defense agree as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for returning this morning. You're now seated as jurors in the case before us. As previously been told, I'm Stephen W. Boyce, the District Judge of Fremont County in charge of this courtroom trial. I'll briefly reintroduce you to some of our court personnel assisting here today. Shannon Holstein, seated to my right, is the clerk who is keeping minutes of the trial proceedings, will be marking trial exhibits and administering oaths to you as jurors and to the witnesses. We do have our courtroom bailiffs as well who assist with keeping order in the courtroom and helping the jury move about where they're supposed to throughout the day, and then enforcing any conduct orders we have in effect here for the trial. Our court reporter today in Bland is taking a stenographic record of everything said during the trial proceedings, and my staff attorney reporting.
If any of you watched this already, as I did, so it's round 2 for us. Isn't it so nice at 1.15 speed? 1.25 was a little fast. I'll admit it. But this is nice, isn't it? So now we're going to hear the jury instructions. Think about it. Pretend you're on the jury, okay? Let's hear.
Stallings, seated to the far right, who assists me with legal research and administrative matters that come up throughout each day of trial. Each one of you has been qualified, examined, and selected to serve as a juror of this court. The clerk will now have a roll call of our seated jurors. Please, Madam Clerk, if you would conduct the roll call. As to each juror, once your juror number is announced, please just indicate present or here verbally so we acknowledge that on the record, Madam Clerk.
Juror 27, present. Juror 219.
Here.
Juror 505.
Here.
Juror 631.
Here.
Juror 653.
Here.
Juror 686.
Present.
Juror 752.
Present.
Juror 1680. Present. Juror 823.
Here.
Juror 1358.
Here.
Juror 1365. Here. Juror 716. Here. Juror 751.
Here.
Juror 997.
Here.
Juror 1078. Juror 1577. Here. Juror 1271.
Present.
Juror 1382. Present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This case is.
Okay, so we are listening to the jury instructions. We've already listened to the state's opening statements. We did a little presentation time, a good overview of the case, who's the prosecution team, who's the defense attorney, who's the judge. We did all of that, the charges that Chad Daybell's facing, how this differs from Lori Vallow Daybell's trial. So if you're only joining now and you missed that, I will timestamp it for you, which means you must look in the pinned comments or the description box or just hover over the video after the live stream. That's when I'll put it in there and you could just easily navigate to what you want to see, right? So we're listening now to jury instructions. There's 10 men and 8 women on this jury. Of course, that includes, it's 12 on the jury and 6 alternates. So let's hear the jury instructions.
Has been brought by the state of Idaho. I'll sometimes refer to the state as the prosecution. The state is here represented in this trial by Lindsay Blake, Fremont County Prosecutor. Ms. Blake, could you please stand briefly? Also, Rob Wood is the Madison County Prosecutor. Ingrid Beatty is a Special Assistant Prosecutor. And Rocky Wixom is a Fremont County Deputy Prosecutor. The defendant in this case, Mr. Daybell, is represented by his attorney, John Pryor. Thank you, counsel. In a few moments, the clerk will read you a redacted version of the amended indictment in this case. That document is not to be considered as evidence. It sets forth the charges against the defendant. You must not consider it as evidence of guilt and not be influenced by the fact that charges have been filed. Mr. Daybell has pled not guilty to the charges contained in the amended indictment. And please remember, again, it's a description of charges. It is not evidence. Under our law and system of justice, every defendant is presumed to be innocent. This means 2 things. First, the state has the burden of proving the defendant guilty. The state has that burden throughout the trial. The defendant is never required to prove his innocence, nor does the defendant ever have to produce any evidence at all. Second, the state must prove the alleged crimes beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible or imaginary doubt. It is a doubt based on reason and common sense. It may arise from a careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence or from a lack of evidence. If after considering all the evidence you have a reasonable doubt about the defendant's guilt, you must find the defendant not guilty. The duty of the jury is to determine the facts and then apply the law set forth in the instructions I will later give you to those facts. In this way, you will decide the case. In applying the court's instructions as to the controlling law, you must follow those instructions regardless of your opinion of what the law is or what the law should be or what any lawyer would say the law to be. During this course of the trial, including opening statements, you're instructed that you are not to discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else, including using the internet or social media or any other form of communication, electronic or otherwise. Do not conduct any personal investigation or look up any information from any source, including the internet, and do not form an opinion as to the merits of the case until after the case has been submitted to you for your determination. The court's given you that instruction now multiple times, and I will continue to give you that instruction. And again, that's not because I don't think you're not paying attention. It's just important enough. We'll keep reiterating that. And I will note we received the juror affirmations today from each of the jurors indicating they have followed that instruction. So thank you for that. At this time then, the next matter we'll take up is to have this jury placed under oath for trial. At this time then, Madam Clerk, if you're ready to administer the oath, I'll have the jurors stand and be placed under oath. When you stand, then please raise your right hands.
You solemnly swear or affirm that you will try the cause now on trial and a true verdict rendered here according to the law and the evidence so help you God.
All right, thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, so they're going to read those jury instructions. I just want to show you this for anyone who missed it, just so you could quickly get a visual. So it's the Chad Daybell trial, right? Jury selection started on April 1st and concluded on Monday, April 8th, 2024. There are 10 men, 8 women on the jury, same as Lori's trial. Lori's trial also started with opening statements on April 10th. That was 2023, so exactly a year ago today. This Chad Daybell's trial is a death penalty trial and is expected to last 8 to 10 weeks. The judge is, in fact, Stephen Boyce. So for those with questions, I saw some questions in the chat. Judge Stephen Boyce is the same judge that presided over Lori's trial. And on July 31st, when he sentenced Lori, we were watching that together. And we first like, oh man, he's going too easy on her. Like, why is he being so nice to her? But then it took a turn and he said, you justified all of this by going down a bizarre religious rabbit hole. And clearly you are still down there. Okay, if anyone is confused about what we're watching, I always have clues on the screen. So look for those, like jury instructions, it says on top there. We do things, a little bit creatively around here. So we first watched the opening statements for the state, did some presentation, and then we watched the opening statements for the defense. I'll timestamp everything for you. And then, of course, now we are watching the jury instructions, which not everyone's interested in. But thank you all for being here. If you are interested and we're listening a little bit faster, 1.15 speed. Okay, so I just want to show you a visual because we can't really see them in the courtroom here. This Zoom camera view, these are all the prosecuting attorneys, and I'll show you that now. The defense attorney is John Pryor, okay? So Chad Daybell, there's differences between the two trials. Go check out the presentation in the middle that we did there before. If you do want to see that, of course, there's cameras in the courtroom. This is a death penalty trial, and he's got 3 counts of first-degree murder and many other charges as well, as we've gone over. We've also discussed the victims in this case, which I've got a picture on the top right there. Tammy Daybell, JJ Vallow, and Tylee Ryan. This is all about them and justice for them. And may the correct people pay the price. Which Chad Daybell, I don't know. This seems to me like I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting trial, but if they don't find him guilty, I'll be very shocked, right? So here, because we can't see them very well here, the prosecution is Lindsay Blake, Rob Wood, Ingrid Beatty, and Rocky Wixon. And Lindsay Blake, if you did listen to Lori Vallow Daybell's trial, because it was audio only, she delivered the opening statements in Lori's trial, and Rob Wood delivered the closing arguments in Lori's trial. So this time, what we saw was Rob Wood delivering the opening statements in this trial. So I wonder then if it will be Lindsay Blake delivering the closing arguments. I would speculate so, but let's see. Right, and I'm quickly going to show you the defense attorney as well. You'll see him now, John Pryor. He's been Chad's attorney since May of 2021. He's solely represented him since then. He said in a recent motion that he wants to stay on the case, but that Chad Daybell can't pay him anymore, and that he's not death penalty qualified, and he didn't have enough time to prepare for the trial. But the judge said, well, buckle up, sir, because you're going to be the attorney, and we're going now. So he's still the attorney. He's still there. And so he will be defending Chad Daybell, his client. Now, due to an interview he conducted with the media 2 weeks ago, there's now a gag order in place. Okay, so we did look at that interview as well. So now you've got a good visual. We also looked at this. I'm just showing you a preview for what we saw earlier. And there is Chad Daybell, the defendant. So back to this over here. Here is the state. Well, here's all the prosecutors table, right? And over here, this right here is Chad Daybell. And here's John Pryor. All right, so now we continue to listen to jury instructions.
All right, the jurors have already been advised of some of our trial procedures in this case, and I'll just give you some additional general information here. Our normal schedule is to run trial from 8:30 each day until 3:30. At times that will need to be modified for certain reasons. Sometimes we have matters to be argued outside of your presence. Sometimes during the recesses, they may seem to go long because we're conducting other court business outside of your presence. But we will take recesses through the morning and also in the afternoon. If anyone is uncomfortable, needs a break or recess for some specific reason, please notify the bailiff and we'll do our best to accommodate each of you and keep you comfortable while you're here. In addition, if anyone has any kind of accommodations they need, for example, assistance with a hearing device, other matters, please notify the bailiff again, and we want to make sure you are as comfortable as you can be and able to be alert and attentive throughout the presentation of evidence in the case. These seats that you have been assigned to at this time will be your specific seat throughout the trial. Please return to that same assigned seat each day or after each break so that we are able to determine who's here and if someone's not for some reason who's not here. If there are interruptions at times during the trial, I know that can be frustrating, but we'll work our best to keep those to a minimum, move the trial as long as efficiently as possible, but at times it just takes time to hear motions that are necessary outside of your presence. And then the courtroom and your location for deliberations, as well as during the trial where you'll be held, we've provided, of course, access to restrooms and other needs you may have. I'll address your compensation here. State law allows you for $10 a day for your jury service. However, after 5 days, that bumps up to $40 a day. So this trial is expected to go some time. You'll likely get into that increased range of compensation, and that's pursuant to Idaho Code 2215. You're also entitled, I believe, to a mileage reimbursement for travel each day, and that can further be explained to you if you have any questions. Also, you may notice from time to time, or a lot of the time, I'm looking at monitors here during the trial. I do have case information here and availability to access and research things from the bench. And so if you notice me looking at those monitors, it's generally to assist me in trial issues that come up. At this time, then the court will provide the jury with some additional jury instructions. As I read through these, it's somewhat lengthy, and I will notify you that you don't have to necessarily memorize everything I'm saying. When the trial is concluded and you deliberate, you will have printed copies of these instructions to return to for reference. And if you'll give me just a moment here, I have a brief inquiry to make with my staff attorney.
Can hear a pin drop. Thank you, Anne. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Now that you've been sworn.
And Forensic Fury said, yeah, the prosecution should never be complacent. As we know, complacent. I normally say complacency is a killer. I mean, it doesn't never be complacent. Yeah, I agree. You just never know what the jury, they're hearing this for the first time. So they've got to make sure it's compelling. They've got all the evidence coming across well, you know, everything. Because at the end of the day, yeah, Chad's life is literally in the jury's hands. Death penalty trial.
As jurors to try this case, I'll go over with you what will be happening. I will describe how the trial will be conducted and what we will be doing. At the end of the trial, I'll give you more detailed guidance on how you are to reach your decision. Because the state has the burden of proof, it goes first. After the state's opening statement, the defense may make an opening statement or may wait until the state has presented its case. The state will offer evidence that it says will support the charges against the defendant. The defense may then present evidence but is not required to do so. If the defense does present evidence, the state may then present rebuttal evidence. This is evidence offered to answer the defense's evidence. After you have heard all of the evidence, I will give you additional instructions on the law. After you have heard the instructions, the state and the defense will each be given time for closing arguments. In their closing arguments, they will summarize the evidence to help you understand how it relates to the law. Just as the opening statements are not evidence, neither are the closing arguments. After the closing arguments, you will leave the courtroom together to make your decision. During your deliberations, you will have with you my instructions, the exhibits admitted into evidence, and any notes taken by you in court. The defendant is charged by the state of Idaho with a violation of law. The charges against the defendant are contained in the amended indictment. The amended indictment is simply a description of the charges. It is not evidence. Jury instruction number 3. The defendant, Chad Daybell, has been charged in the amended indictment with certain counts of entering into a conspiracy with Lori Vallow and or Alex Cox and or other co-conspirators. The crime of conspiracy involves an agreement by 2 or more persons to commit a crime. You must only consider the evidence against the defendant, Chad Daybell, in this case, and should not speculate as to any other case or legal proceedings involving any alleged co-conspirators. You must remember that the defendant, Chad Daybell, has the presumption of innocence, and you must consider his guilt or innocence based solely on the evidence provided in this case. Instruction number 4. It is alleged that the crimes charged were committed on or about or on or between a certain date. If you find a crime was committed, the proof need not show that it was committed on that precise date. Instruction number 5. Under our law and system of justice, the defendant is presumed to be innocent. Presumption of innocence means 2 things. First, the state has the burden of proving the defendant guilty. The state has that burden throughout the trial. The defendant is never required to prove his innocence, nor does the defendant ever have to produce any evidence at all. Second, the state must prove the alleged crime beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible or imaginary doubt. It is a doubt based on reason and common sense. It may arise from a careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence or from lack of evidence. If after considering all the evidence you have a reasonable doubt about the defendant's guilt, you must find the defendant not guilty. Jury instruction number 6. A defendant in a criminal trial has a constitutional right not to be compelled to testify. The decision whether to testify is left to the defendant, acting with the advice and assistance of the defendant's lawyer. You must not draw any inference of guilt from the fact that the defendant may not testify, nor should this fact be discussed by you or enter into your deliberations in any way. Jury instruction number 7. If during the trial I may say or do anything which suggests to you that I am inclined to favor the claims or positions of any party, you will not permit yourself to be influenced by any such suggestion. I will not express nor intend to express, nor will I intend to intimate any opinion as to which witnesses are or are not worthy of belief, what facts are or are not established, or what inferences should be drawn from the evidence. If any expression of mine seems to indicate an opinion relating to any of these matters, I will instruct you to disregard it. Jury instruction number 8. Your duties are to determine the facts, to apply the law set forth in my instructions to those facts, and in this way to decide the case. In doing so, you must follow my instructions regardless of your own opinion of what the law is or should be, or what either side may state the law to be. You must consider them as a whole, not picking out one and disregarding others. The order in which the instructions are given has no significance as to their relative importance. The law requires that your decision be made solely upon the evidence before you. Neither sympathy nor prejudice should influence you in your deliberations. Faithful performance by you of these duties is vital to the administration of justice. In determining the facts, you may consider only the evidence admitted in this trial. This evidence consists of the testimony of the witnesses, the exhibits offered and received, and any stipulated or admitted facts. The production of evidence in court is governed by rules of law. At times during the trial, an objection may be made to a question asked a witness, or to a witness's answer, or to an exhibit. This simply means I'm being asked to decide a particular rule of law.
There will be a pop quiz afterwards, okay? So I hope you're listening. and taking notes. It's what I tell myself, you know, when I really have to concentrate. It's very like monotone, makes me feel sleepy, okay? I see a few of you saying it as well. We're playing it a little bit faster, okay? So we can stay awake. We've had some coffee and everything. We're here together. But you better be taking notes. I'm taking some notes, okay? So if you see me scribbling over here, I'm taking some notes in case there's anything I can recap with you afterwards.
Arguments on the admissibility of evidence are designed to aid the court and are not to be considered by you nor affect your deliberations. If I sustain an objection to a question or to an exhibit, the witness may not answer the question or the exhibit may not be considered. Do not attempt to guess what the answer might have been or what the exhibit might have shown. Similarly, if I tell you not to consider a particular statement or exhibit, you should put it out of your mind and not refer to it or rely on it in your later deliberations. During the trial, I may have to talk with the parties about the rules of law which should apply to this case. Sometimes that will occur over on the corner there, and we do have a device here that whites out the noise so you can't hear us speaking there. At other times, I'll excuse you from the courtroom so that you can be comfortable while we work out any problems with evidence. You are not to speculate about any such discussions. They are necessary from time to time to help the trial run more smoothly. Some of you have probably heard the terms circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, and hearsay evidence. Do not be concerned with these terms. You are to consider all the evidence admitted in this trial. However, the law does not require you to believe all of the evidence. As the sole judges of the facts, you must determine what evidence you believe and what weight you attach to it. There is no magical formula by which one may evaluate testimony. You bring with you to this courtroom all the experience and background of your lives. In your everyday affairs, you determine for yourselves whom you believe, what you believe, and how much weight you attach to what you are told. The same considerations that you use in your everyday dealings in making these decisions are the considerations which you must apply in your deliberations. In deciding what you believe, do not make your decisions simply because more witnesses may have testified one way than the other. Your role is to think about the testimony of each witness you heard and decide how much you believe of what the witness had to say. A witness who has special knowledge in a particular matter may give an opinion on that matter. In determining the weight to be given such an opinion, you should consider the qualifications and credibility of the witness and the reasons given for the opinion. You are not bound by such opinion. Give it the weight, if any, to which you deem it entitled.
Little sip of water there.
During instruction number 9, at the conclusion of the trial, you will decide as to each charge whether the state has proved the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The subject of penalty or punishment is not to be discussed or considered by you in making these decisions. That is a matter which must not in any way affect your verdict. During instruction number 10, the state is seeking the death penalty in this case. If the defendant is convicted of murder in the first degree, there will then be a separate sentencing phase of the trial. At that sentencing phase, additional evidence may be presented and the jury will be given additional instructions. At the conclusion of that hearing, the jury will then decide if the defendant will be sentenced to death. If the jury decides that the defendant will not be sentenced to death, either the defendant will be sentenced to a term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, or the judge will sentence the defendant to a term of life imprisonment during which the defendant could not be paroled for at least 10 years and possibly for life. Jury instruction number 11. If you wish, you may take notes to help you remember what witnesses said. If you do take notes, please keep them to yourself until after you and your fellow jurors go to the jury room to decide the case.
It's like someone else's mouse pointer moving across the screen there. I'm like, what? They can take notes. We have come to appreciate that because in some trials we've watched recently, they could not take notes. So that's great.
You should not let note-taking distract you so that you do not hear other answers by witnesses. When you leave at night, you'll leave your notes here with the bailiffs. If you do not take notes, you should rely on your own memory of what was said and not be overly influenced by the notes of other jurors. In addition, you cannot assign one person the duty of taking notes for all of you. Jury instruction number 12. It is important that as jurors and officers of this court, you obey the following instructions at any time you leave the jury box, whether it be for recesses of the court during the day or when you leave the courtroom to go home at night. First, do not talk about the case among yourselves or with anyone else during the course of the trial. You should keep an open mind throughout the trial and not form or express an opinion about the case. You should only reach your decision after you have heard all the evidence, after you've heard my final instructions, and after the final arguments. You may discuss this case with the other members of the jury only after it is submitted to you for your decision. All such discussions should take place in the jury room. Second, do not let any person talk about the case in your presence. If anyone does talk about it to you, tell them you're a juror of the case. If they won't stop talking, then report that to the bailiff or courtroom staff here as soon as you're able to do that. You should not tell your fellow jurors about what has happened. Third, during this trial, do not talk with any of the parties, their lawyers, or any witnesses. By this, I mean not only do not talk about the case, but do not talk at all, even to pass the time of day. In no other way can all parties be assured of the fairness they are entitled to expect from these jurors. Fourth, during this trial, do not make any investigation of this case or inquiry outside of the courtroom on your own. Do not go to any place mentioned in the testimony without an order from court to do so. You must not consult any books, records, internet, or any other source of information unless I specifically authorize you to do so. Fifth, do not read about the case in the newspapers. Do not listen to radio or television broadcasts about the trial. You must base your verdict solely on what is presented in court, and not upon any newspaper, radio, television, or other media account of what may have happened. Each day, you will be required, as I mentioned, to sign an affirmation that you will follow this admonition of the court. That concludes the court's first instructions then, and as I mentioned, we will be providing copies of those when we deliberate for further reference.
Okay, so they've read the jury instructions. Now they're going to read the amended indictment with all the charges. I just quickly want to put this on the screen here so that you can just see. Steel Guitar was asking, isn't Larry Woodcock JJ's uncle? I can't remember exactly. I asked the question. It's like, I couldn't even believe the answer I typed because I'm like, it really is complicated. If the jury if they weren't able to take notes, they'd get so confused. Look at all these like mind maps and visuals we've made to try to learn who's who, here. So Tammy Daybell, of course, was Chad Daybell's wife at the time. Not former wife, not ex-wife, wife. Married for 29 years. It's the ultimate betrayal. I just recently did a live stream on that where we went over the background of how they met and when they got married and all the children they had and everything, right? What she did for a living, what he did. So go and check that out if you are interested. It's on the playlist, and it was literally last week we did 2 live streams to prepare for the trial. As you know, I'm only covering the trial with highlights and recaps, and so that we can also watch it at our own speed, you know what I mean, a little bit faster, because we need that sometimes, okay? So I'm just going to put this on the screen. You can see Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell are in color. All the other people are in black and white because they are deceased. So look just how many people have died around those 2 people. Joe Ryan was Lori Vallow's 3rd husband. She's had 5 husbands. She's still married to number 5, which is Chad Daybell. So weird, they're still married, but okay. Yeah, Stefan says, give the jurors your visuals. And so Tylee, on the top right-hand side of the screen, one of the victims who was buried in Chad Daybell's backyard, but they don't know exactly how she died because she was dismembered and charred. The remains were charred. It's just, you'll hear throughout this trial some of those details. It's terrible. So that was the daughter of Lori Vallow and Joe Ryan. Okay? If I make any mistakes, let me know, because I'm trying my very best here as well to keep up with it. Okay? We've done our best all along. Mistakes do happen sometimes, but that is, as I can see it, Joe Ryan, Tylee, right? Daughter. Okay, and then JJ, as Steel Guitar was asking, how is JJ related to them? So JJ was the son of Kay Woodcock's son. But he was going through some struggles and couldn't take care of him. So Kay and Larry Woodcock took care of JJ for some time. Then, at the time, Lori Vallow was married to Charles Vallow, hubby number 4, who was killed by her brother. Are we still following? You see, it's very... And so Charles and Lori adopted JJ Vallow. But Charles, yes, as I say, was killed by Alex Cox. He was shot. We saw a body cam and all that from when Alex was outside and all of that. We even saw his butt crack. Remember that? Do you remember? If you watched it with us, oh my word, when they were checking his hands and checking all the injuries and all that. So, Joe Ryan apparently died of a heart attack. I know there's some speculation there of, really? Are we sure? Then we've got Tylee was murdered. Charles murdered. Alex Cox died the day after saying, I hope I'm not their fall guy, and leaving some kind of duffel bag with cash in the closet for his wife Zulema Pastines. And they said, no, he died of natural causes, but that's weird. And a day after they said they're going to exhume Tammy Daybell's body. It's all very strange. And then, of course, Charles and JJ Vallow. Okay, so does that... Someone does. Janet says, I do remember the butt crack. You do. Then you were there. You were definitely there. Just look at this. You see? This is on my playlist. It's part of the part 1, 2, 3, and 4 deep dive. Okay, now we went over this very slowly. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry. We all are. But I did go over this. Each person, who's who, hope the arrows and things help. How do they connect? Lori's actually facing conspiracy to commit murder charges for Brandon Boudreaux's attempted murder and also for Charles Vallow's conspiracy to commit murder. Okay? So, enjoy the visual while we listen to the amended indictment.
Next, at this time, then, I am going to have the clerk read the amended and redacted indictment to you. Madam Clerk, if you're ready to read the amended indictment, please do that at this time.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho and in for the County of Fremont. State of Idaho plaintiff versus Chad Daybell defendant, case number CR 2221.
I'll put it up again afterwards, okay?
1623, amended indictment. Chad Daybell is accused by the grand jury of Fremont County of this indictment as follows. Count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder with grand theft by deception. The defendants, Chad Daybell and or Lori Vallow and or Alex Cox, deceased, and or other co-conspirators, both known and unknown, on or between the dates of October 26, 2018, and continuing until January 15, 2020, in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Fremont County, Idaho, and as part of continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan in Madison and Fremont counties, Idaho, did willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Tylee Ryan and to commit grand theft by deception. Count 2, first degree murder. The defendant, Chad Daybell, on or between the 8th and 9th day of September 2019 in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and as part of a common scheme or plan for continuing criminal transactions in Madison and Fremont counties in Idaho, were concerned in the commission of a first-degree murder and did aid and abet in its commission, or not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or by command compelled another to commit the crime, and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being, to wit, either kill Tylee Ryan and or assist in the killing of Tylee Ryan, and or did encourage the killing of Tylee Ryan, and or did command another to kill Tylee Ryan in violation of federal. Count 3, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. The defendants, Chad Daybell and or Lori Vallow and or Alex Cox, deceased, and or other co-conspirators, both known and unknown, on or between the dates of October 26, 2018, and continuing until January 15, 2020, excuse me, in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Fremont County, Idaho, and as part of a continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan in Madison and Fremont counties, Idaho, that willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Joshua Jackson Vallow, hereinafter J.J. Vallow, and to commit grand theft by deception. Count 4, first-degree murder. The defendant, Chad Daybell, on or between the 8th and 9th day of September 2018, in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and as part of a common scheme or plan for continuing criminal transactions between Madison and Fremont counties in Idaho, were concerned in the commission of a first-degree murder and did aid and abet in its commission, or not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or by command compelled another to commit the crime, and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being. To wit, did either kill J.J. Vallow and or assist in the killing of J.J. Vallow and or did encourage the killing of J.J. Vallow and or did command another to kill J.J. Vallow in violation of Idaho Code. Count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendants, Chad Daybell and or Lori Vallow and or Alex Cox, deceased, and or other co-conspirators, both known and unknown, on or between the dates of October 26, 2018, and continuing until January 15, 2020, in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Madison County, Idaho, and as part of a continuing criminal transaction in common scheme or plan in Fremont and Madison counties, Idaho, did willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Tammy Daybell, and did combine or conspire to commit murder, and one or more of such persons did an act to effect the object, combination, or conspiracy. Count 6, first-degree murder. The defendant, Chad Daybell, on October 18 to 19, 2019, in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, was concerned in the commission of first-degree murder and did aid and abet in its commission, or not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or by command compelled another to commit the crime, and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being. To wit, did either kill Tammy Daybell and or assist in the killing of Tammy Daybell and or did encourage the killing of Tammy Daybell and or did command another to kill Tammy Daybell in violation of Idaho Code. Count 7, insurance fraud. The defendant, Chad Daybell, on or about October 19, 2019 through October 30, 2019, in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, did with the intent to defraud or deceive an insurer for the purpose of obtaining any money or benefit, insurer or other person, a statement as part of or in support of a claim for payment or benefit, knowing that such statement contained false, incomplete, or misleading information concerning any fact or thing material to such claim, to wit, that present and or cause to be presented an insurance beneficiary form to Life Map Assurance Company in violation of Idaho Code. Count 9, insurance fraud. That the defendant, Chad Daybell, on or about October 19, 2019 through October 31, 2019, in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, did with the intent to defraud or deceive an insurer for the purpose of obtaining any money or benefit, insurer or other person, a statement as part of or in support of a claim for payment or benefit, knowing that such statement contained false, incomplete, or misleading information concerning any fact or material thing to such claim, to wit, did present and or cause to be presented an insurance beneficiary form to Primerica Life Insurance Company in violation of Idaho Code. Signed as a true bill on the 24th day of May, 2021, and signed by the deputy presiding grand juror, acting as presiding grand juror in Fremont County, state of Idaho. And to these charges, the defendant consented a plea of not guilty.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk, for reading the redacted amended indictment. In this case, again, I will advise the jurors, remember the indictment is a description of charges, it is not evidence.
It's a description of charges, not evidence. So nine of them. Okay, stand by because I'm going to show you the document quickly.
That concludes
Just
the
want to hear what
court's
they do.
opening instructions and the reading of the indictment. The jury's been sworn as well. The next matter we would take up then are opening statements. We inquire of the state, is the state ready to proceed?
And we've already watched that. Okay, so everybody, please stand by. Who's feeling excited for document time? Got to keep it interesting, right? Okay, here we go. I mean, this case is very complex, isn't it? So many deaths surrounding the two of them, particularly Lori Vallow because that started before even, you know? Wow, okay, I'm quickly gonna take this image off. Sorry about that. I just want to make some space so that we can see this. Yes. Okay, now let's resize it for you. This is the amended indictment. So we've watched the opening statements. We've also now heard all we heard the court clerk read the amended indictment. So I just want to show it to you because as I'm scribbling notes there, I'm like, it's gonna be easier to see it like this. And this was from February 20th of 2024. Amended Indictment. So they say plaintiff versus Chad Guy Daybell and Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell. So count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. I'm not going to read over the whole thing. I'm just going to read the counts, okay? Or do you want me to read the whole thing? I think I'm just going to read the counts just as they are, like this, just so we can just double-check ourselves. Count 1 was conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and it had to do with Tylee Ryan's death. Okay? Yeah. Encouraging and or justifying the homicide of Tylee Ryan. Okay, so they say on or about August 16th, Lori Noreen Vallow did change the deposit of Tylee Ryan's Social Security benefits from Tylee Ryan's JP Morgan Chase account to deposit money directly into Lori Noreen Vallow's personal BBVA bank account. Not only did these people murder, for Chad allegedly murder, or conspire to murder, or encourage someone else to murder, because I know it may have been Alex Cox who was their hitman or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know exactly who did the deed, but Chad, Lori, Alex Cox, all big red flags. The point is, not only were people murdered, but when they were murdered, they also took all their money, making sure it's life insurance or insurance fraud or some kind of social security money or whatever it is. Okay, so I am actually going to, I think it's going to help you if I do read, let's read point 1, okay? Here we go. Let's just start again. One more time. Count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. It's not that long of a document. And grand theft by deception, a felony. The defendants, Chad Guy Daybell and or Lori Noreen Vallow and or Alex Cox, deceased, that's Lori's brother, and or other co-conspirators. So they do make room for other, maybe some people in the group, both known and unknown, on or between the dates of October 26th of 2018 and continuing until January 15th of 2020 in the county of Madison, the state of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Fremont County, Idaho, and as part of a continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan in Madison and Fremont counties, Idaho, that willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Tylee Ryan and to commit grand theft by deception. Overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree of Tylee Ryan, that's Lori Vallow's daughter, right? She was 16. And grand theft by deception, and to affect the object thereof, one or more of the following overt acts were committed by one or more of the subjects of the conspiracy as part of a continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan within Madison and Fremont counties or elsewhere in the state of Idaho. This will help us all understand as if we were on the jury, right? Okay, just to be like, well, what exactly are they going to be looking at? So, on or between, we've looked at it before, but this is now actually a new amended indictment. So it's helpful. I don't know if you find it helpful. I sure do. On or between October 26th of 2018 and June 9th of 2020, Chad Guy Daybell and Lori Noreen Vallow did endorse and espouse religious beliefs for the purpose of encouraging and or justifying the homicide of Tylee Ryan. They literally said she had a dark spirit and was a zombie. My goodness. On or about August 16th, 2019, Lori Noreen Vallow did change the deposit of Tylee Ryan's Social Security benefits from Tylee Ryan's JP Morgan Chase account to deposit money directly into Lori Noreen Vallow's personal BBVA bank account. On or about September 1st of 2019, Lori Noreen Vallow did move from Chandler, Arizona. I mean, she wasn't there for long, huh? She moved from Chandler, Arizona to Rexburg, Idaho with Alex Cox, Tylee Ryan, and Joshua Jackson Vallow, hereinafter JJ Vallow. On or about September 8th of 2019, Chad Guy Daybell Googled SSW wind, southwest wind, and visited a website entitled, he Googled that and then he visited a website. What is the definition of SSW wind direction? Okay. Yeah, okay. So good luck to the defense attorney explaining all this funny stuff away. The Google searches, I can't wait to hear more about that. Can't wait to hear about the cell phone pings, where he was, the text messages, and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, on or about September 9th of 2019, Alex Cox, Lori's brother, did go to 565 Pioneer Road, Apartments 175, Rexburg, Idaho. On or between September 9th of 2019 and February 1st of 2020, Lori Vallow refused contact the Social Security Administration as required by law to inform the Social Security Administration as required by law to inform. Why are they repeating this? This sentence makes no sense, but okay. as required by law to inform the Social Security Administration of Tylee Ryan's death. Because they got to cash in, right? 7. On or about September 25th of 2019 and January 22nd of 2020, Lori Vallow, I'm not going to read the whole name the whole time, Lori Vallow, did wrongfully continue to collect 5 monthly Social Security survivor benefits on behalf of Tylee Ryan. Trying to cash in also for her father's death, Charles Vallow. Well, that was a stepdad, but you know what I mean. Every time somebody died, they're like, ooh, time to cash in. Count 2, first-degree murder, a felony. And interestingly, Lori Vallow's dad, Lori Vallow Daybell's dad, also worked in life insurance. I remember that from way back when we did the part 1, part 2, part 3, 4. I think there's 4 deep dive parts that we did. Okay, so if you want to check that out, also the background of Lori, how many siblings she has. 1 sibling died. Alex was the last person to see her alive. That's interesting to me. I don't know. Am I speculating? Maybe. But if you want to know a little bit more about her background, we've done some of that before. Now, count 2 is first-degree murder. We're reading the amended indictment for Chad Daybell. These are the charges he's facing. They just read it in the courtroom. I'm going over the document right now with you. If you like that, please like and share. If you don't, no problem. Don't worry. So, yes, and Milo, blame me for the court audio. Even though we boosted it, tweaked it, and done our very best. Okay, count 2, first-degree murder, a felony. Also, try somewhere else. Okay. First-degree murder, a felony. The defendant, Chad Daybell, otherwise known as Storm. Oh, no. And Lori Vallow, on or between the 8th and 9th of September of 2019 in the county of Madison, and all of that's the same, right, were concerned in the commission of a first-degree murder, did aid and abet in its commission, or, not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or, by command, compelled another to commit the crime, probably Alex Cox, and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being, to wit, did either kill Tylee Ryan and or assist in the killing of Tylee Ryan, and or did encourage the killing of Tylee Ryan, and or did command another to kill Tylee Ryan in violation of Idaho Code. Count 3 is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception, and this is now the same wording as before, and this is for J.J. Vallow, okay? So let's go to these points over here when they said on or about October 26th of 2018, or on or between. I keep saying on or about because we're so used to reading that. On or between October 26th of 2018 and June 9th of 2020, Chad Daybell and Noreen Vallow did endorse and espouse religious beliefs for the purpose of encouraging and or justifying the homicide of Joshua Jackson Vallow. He was also special needs, right? He was on the autism spectrum, if I remember correctly, and he had a service dog, right? I can't remember the name of the dog. I can just picture the dog. Didn't Lori sell the dog like right after that or give it away? Do you remember that? I don't know. That just came to mind. Let me know. Yeah, Varushka's like, Storm. We have to put that on the screen. Yeah, Storm. That's what he called his, you know what? Yes. Grab me by the storm, he said to Lori. Ew. Oh no, we're going to have to hear a lot of those text messages again, aren't we? So here they say on or about, on September 1st of 2019, Lori Vallow did move from Chandler, Arizona to Rexburg, Idaho with Alex Cox, Tylee Ryan, and Joshua Jackson Vallow. On September 23rd of 2019, Alex Cox did take possession of J.J. Vallow. They also have phone evidence for that, so I'm sure we're going to hear about that too. They said, on or about November 26th of 2019, Noreen Vallow provided a fake and or misleading physical location of J.J. Vallow to law enforcement during a lawful investigation. Even asked a friend to take a photo of some kids at a movie theater and pretend that J.J.'s with her. Remember that? Melanie Gibb. Yeah, you guys say yes, you did. Yes, and Leo says, yes, JJ's service dog was given away. Oh, no. That is just so sad all over again. Sure. These people have no souls. They're so concerned with everyone's souls, but to me they seem pretty soulless. What do you think? On or between September 23rd, 2019 and February 1st, Noreen Vallow failed or refused to contact the Social Security Administration as required by law to inform the Social Security Administration of J.J. Vallow's death. On or between the dates of September 9th of 2019 and February 1st of 2020, Lori Vallow did wrongfully continue to collect 4 monthly Social Security survivor benefits on behalf of J.J. Vallow and 4 monthly Social Security child in-care payments. Isn't that just sickening? And in that time, her and Chad had gone to Hawaii and got married. And we're just living as if it's just the two of us, like already applying for apartments before the death, saying, nope, no children. We don't have children. It's like, Chad's making like we empty nesters. Maybe he was an empty nester, but he was still married at the time. She's like, nope, it's just me and Lori, just us two, starting over. Like, okay. So, count 4, first-degree murder. And this is between the 8th and 9th of September of 2019. Okay, and they say here, all the same wording, did either kill J.J. Vallow and or assist in the killing of J.J. Vallow and or did encourage the killing of J.J. Vallow and or did command another to kill J.J. Vallow. And those details, a little boy, 7 years old, with a plastic bag over his head, duct tape, hands tied to his chest. And they said there were signs of struggle. That is so scary. Count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. These are all Chad Daybell's charges that he's facing in this trial. So you can see also why it's an 8 to 10 week trial. A lot of charges, okay? The defendants, Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, and or Alex Cox, deceased, and or other co-conspirators, both known and unknown, between the dates of October 26th of 2018, continuing until January 15th of 2020. And the rest is all the same wording here. They say, did willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Tammy Daybell, and did combine or conspire to commit murder, and one or more of such persons did an act to effect the object of the combination or conspiracy. If you didn't see the recap episodes we did last week, which is on the playlist, go check it out, because we re-listened to the 911 call, where Chad Daybell is like, I'm the husband of Chad, and he's like, oh no, like he was so fake crying. Unbelievable, in my opinion. Allegedly. It just sounded very, very fake, right? And he just made like, no, she was falling apart physically, wouldn't go to the doctor, and she just died. No, she was training for a marathon. She was doing high-intensity interval training. She was loving her life in a job. Not so impressed with Chad at that time. Suspected he might be having an affair, but suddenly he's like, yep, she dropped dead. Just like that. Yeah, right. Okay. So, overt acts in furtherance the conspiracy. We're almost done with this document, by the way, just in case you're like, oh no. And we're going to call it a day after this, by the way. We watched the opening statements. We watched the jury instructions. We're reading what exactly the charges are. Then we're going to draw a line in the sand for the day. And then we'll come back again with highlights, recaps. I'm going to be making videos and or YouTube shorts and or live stream recaps for you and or community tab posts. So check it all out, because throughout this trial, it's a very long trial, 2 months, okay, with lots of other true crime news, of course, happening at the same time. You're going to have to look for, updates, recaps, highlights, sped up trial days here and there, okay? Just all over the place. So, overt acts on this channel, though, at least on one channel. And make sure you subscribe with the bell on so you don't miss the notifications for those. Now, overt acts, they say they did in furtherance of the conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree of Tammy Daybell and to effect the object thereof. One or more of the following overt acts were committed by one or more of the subjects of the conspiracy as part of the continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan within Madison and Fremont counties or elsewhere in the state of Idaho. What a betrayal. 29 years, married to him, college sweethearts. She did everything with him, by his side, had 5 children with him, living their life, and he's suddenly like, there's Lori. And he's just like, wow, she's so out of my league. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of my wife. She's definitely a zombie to be with Lori. Wow. Janet says, we'll get extra belts and snark pants. Yes, we do need to. Now, on or between October 26, 2018 and June 9th of 2020, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow did endorse and espouse religious beliefs for the purpose of encouraging, justifying the homicide of Tammy Daybell. On or about September 1st, Lori moved to Rexburg, Idaho with Alex Cox, Tylee Ryan, and Joshua Jackson Vallow, J.J. Vallow. Text messages between Chad and Lori regarding death percentages for Tammy and JJ were in messages on July 30th of 2019. Yeah, they had charts, they had zombie charts, dark, light, who's darker, who's possessed by spirits. Like, Lori was already influenced by Chad at the time when Charles Vallow was murdered by her brother and said that there was some demon called Ned Schneider that had possessed him and that he needs to be shot. but Chad had also Googled Ned Schneider obituary, something like 1955. So I can't wait to hear about the Google searches, because I think that's what's going to bite Chad in the ass as well. On top of all the other evidence, I think Google searches are not going to be... Uncle Google is not Chad Daybell's friend. So Chad Daybell obtained a burner phone. Typical, huh? Typical. On September 18th of 2019. Alex Cox contained a burner phone. Oh, they're so sneaky. On October 9th of 2019, text messages between Chad Guy Daybell and Lori Vallow about a tomorrow Tammy Daybell being in limbo and Tammy being possessed by a spirit named Viola. Wow. On September 8th of 2019, Chad Guy Daybell signed an application along with Tammy Daybell to increase her life map insurance to the maximum allowed under her policy. Well, that's a red flag in hindsight, right? We know it from true crime. Of course, not everyone knows it. I hope you teach people about it, because if you see someone like, let's increase that life insurance, shall we? Oh, that's a red flag, right? Joshua Davison says, careful. If you say Ned Schneider 3 times, he appears. Ooh, we've said it twice already. We've got to be very careful now. Alex Cox attempted to shoot Tammy Daybell on October 9th, 2019. She saw a masked man with a paintball gun outside her house, and she called 911, and we listened to those calls last week in the recap episode. So do check it out, right? Alex Cox conducted multiple internet searches that's now Lori's brother, between the dates of October 8th of 2019 and October 12th of 2019, including searches related to Grendel drop and shooting through a Dodge Dakota. Okay. Alex going to the gun range in the months before October 9th of 2019, where the attempted shooting of Tammy Daybell took place. Alex traveled from Sportsman's Warehouse. Didn't even go to Walmart, this guy. Okay, Sportsman's Warehouse to the vicinity of the Daybell residence on October 9th of 2019. Alex was in the church parking lot approximately 2.5 miles from the Daybell residence on the night of October 18th of 2019, when Tammy was murdered. And there's bruises. There were apparently bruises on Tammy's arms. And if you watch the Daniel Howard trial with me, you know bruises don't form after death. They form before. They might become more pronounced after one dies, but they were formed before. So there is speculation based on the injuries, which I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about in this trial, that 2 people were involved in Tammy Daybell's murder. Meaning one would hold her down and restrain her, the other one would be smothering and or, asphyxiating her. Now, count 6, first degree murder, a felony. This is the same dates and wording, so we're just going to go forward here where they say, did either kill Tammy Daybell and or assist in the killing of Tammy Daybell and or did encourage the killing of Tammy Daybell and or did command another to kill Tammy Daybell in violation of the code. Now, count 7 is grand theft, not grand theft auto. People like grand theft auto. Grand theft, a felony that defendant Lori Vallow on or between October 1st and January 22nd of 2020. In all of that same wording there, by deceit and with intent to deprive another of property or to appropriate the same to herself or a third person, wrongfully take, obtain, or withhold or aid and abet to another to take, obtain, withhold the property of another, to wit, Social Security benefits allocated for Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, and Social Security child in-care benefits allocated for Lori Vallow in an amount exceeding $1,000, which said funds Lori Vallow was not entitled, which did not belong. So they've obviously got Lori's stuff in here too, but it's her and Chad. They're going to have the trial together. A lot of the charges overlap as well because they spent the money together. Freaking malachite rings and everything, right? Okay, so count 7. We're almost done with this. Literally a page and a half, well, half a page ago. Insurance fraud that the defendant Chad Guy Daybell on or about October 19, 2019 to October 30th of 2019 in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, did with the intent to defraud or deceive an insurer for the purpose of obtaining any money or benefit insurer or another person, okay? Slow down there. Okay. A statement as part of or in support of claim for payment or benefit, knowing that such statement contained false, incomplete, or misleading information concerning any fact or thing material to such claim. To it, did present and or cause to be presented an insurance beneficiary form to Life Map Assurance Company in violation of the code. Chad Daybell took out $430,000, if I remember correctly the figure, $430,000 of Tammy Daybell's life insurance. The one that he maxed out before she died. Yeah, he's like, let's just get that to the most. Oh my word, she died. Okay, can I claim that? Wow. I don't know how these people think they can get away with this. Delusional. And finally, this would be count 8 now, that the defendant, Chad Guy Daybell, on or about October 19th to October 31st in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, did with the intent to defraud, deceive an insurer for the purpose of obtaining any money or benefit, insurer or other person, a statement as part of or in support of a claim for the payment or benefit, knowing that such statement contained false, incomplete, or misleading information concerning any fact or thing to material to such claim, to wit, did present and or cause to be presented an insurance beneficiary form to Primerica Life Insurance Company. Almost did the Italian thing. Primerica Life Insurance Company in violation of Idaho Code section. Okay, so we've seen that, right? Does that match what they said? A little bit. Let's just quickly check here. Yes, okay. So that was a lot, but I hope it made it a little bit more clear for you what they had said there. So again, quick recap. We went through the opening statements from the state, then a little presentation in the mid-morning break, then the defense's opening statements, jury instructions, and the document. That's what we do today. We meet again. Of course, we're following many cases, right? So you'll see a variety of case coverage throughout this trial either way. Of course, we know that May also, in about a month from now, it's going to get very busy. It'll be Richard Allen's trial in Delphi. It's going to be Sarah Brune's trial in Florida. It's going to be Stefan Stern's trial in Florida. And there's something else happening on May 13th. I can't remember what it is, but a lot happens mid-May. So we want to keep ourselves available for that as well. We want to divide our energy so we can cover it all. So for now, that's what we're doing for today. I hope that you enjoy watching the trial. If you do, watch the full trial anywhere else. You know, maybe with Nate Eaton. His recaps are fantastic. East Idaho News articles are really great for recaps as well. They do bullet points. Yes, they do. We do love those recaps. Okay, with East Idaho News. If you've never heard of them, check them out. You can also just Google Chad Daybell trial, East Idaho News, and you'll probably find an entire list there of things they had like they did last year. Every day they made updates, articles, recaps, all that. I want to show you 2 more things quickly, which is this. This is the playlist that I've made for you so that you can just check it out because maybe you're not aware of it. And if you didn't see, I was on True Crime Daily's Sidebar podcast with Josh Ritter the other day. We actually discussed the Chad Daybell trial, and we also discussed the Apple River stabbing trial that's currently ongoing. I know it's going to be verdict watch any minute now, okay? I am definitely lurking that. I'm lurking there as much as I can. And we discussed a very interesting poisoning case as well, a Drano poisoning case. So if you didn't see my appearance on True Crime Daily's Sidebar podcast, you can go check it out now, okay? I'll put the link in the description for you. Here is Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell's playlist. We've got 19 videos, okay, on it. And we did, where's the deep dives? The deep dives are on here. Part 1, 2, 3, 4. Part 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're somewhere on here. So if you just go check it out, you can see we also looked at Lori Vallow's verdict and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all again very soon. Thank you, mods, for helping everyone understand as well what we're doing. And see you soon. If you haven't checked out a Patreon yet, check it out. There's behind the scenes updates there. Okay, bye.